When all else fails, ham radio. We got a fantastic opportunity tonight to talk with Nick and Ben on their first-hand account of being rescued when other methods all failed. They're going to share their personal account of the event and hopefully share with us some insights on how to be more prepared and make ham radio a valuable tool in your everyday life. Hello and welcome to Live Free and Ham Podcast. This is our bi-weekly show where we explain ham radio topics for New Hampshire, New England, and beyond. So whether you're a regular listener or first-time guest, we're excited to have you on here and we appreciate your support. And as always, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. So let's kind of get into today's show. I'm your host, Eric, call sign November 1, Juliet United Radio, and I'm with my co-hosts, Paul. Say hello.
All right. Well, good day. This is Paul, KO4, TPY.
We're getting a really weird start today. And my other host there, go ahead, Todd.
I'm Todd, W1STJ.
All right, cool. And we got two special guests, like I mentioned earlier. We are blessed to have both Ben and Nick. And Ben, go ahead. Let us know you're there and what your call sign is.
Hi, I'm Ben, KC1TF3. Nice to meet you guys and happy to be on.
Awesome. All right. How about you, Nick?
I'm Nick, Kilo Charlie 1, Oscar Tango X-Ray, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you guys on, and thank you for being here. So, a couple of things before we dive into the show. We always like to kind of just catch all our listeners up and let everybody know what Live Free and Ham's doing. Every month, as always, we got a live stream that we do on our YouTube channel. We have working on schedule one for January since we're into the new year. So stay tuned for what we got planned for that one. As always, you can check our socials, the website, and our YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed to our channel and you'll get notified wherever you are and when we go live. This is just kind of a we'll call soft open, in the words of Ocean's 13. We have finally just started to get around to get our storefront launch. So if you've been waiting impatiently to get swag and stuff like that, please head over to our website, check it out. We're still adding products as we go and tweaking it. So, be patient with us. But if you definitely want to go get your Live Free and Ham swag there, you can definitely check out the store. So, without further ado, let's kind of get into what's been going on in your ham radio world. So, we'll start off with Ben. So, Ben, what's been going on with you this week or so?
Not much. Just relaxing and being at home, getting a little bit on the radio and rag chewing a little bit, having fun with it, and meeting new people that way.
Very cool. Awesome. All right. Well, okay. We'll dive over from Ben to Nick. So, Nick, what's been going on in your ham radio life?
Well, I've been experimenting on getting a new antenna up for my HF rig, and also I'm in the process of setting up, programming, and getting a 440 repeater online.
Oh, very cool. How's is that project just in its infancy stages, or you finally got something up, or what kind of do tell?
We're actually in our testing stages right now. I need to put up a new antenna, but then the snow hit this weekend, so I don't know if I'm going to get to that before the melt. But I got a Yaesu was a DR2X repeater.
Oh, okay. Did you get the Yaesu deal that usually comes out every year? Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
And and then I'm trying to get that online because of my CERT team, which I'll talk about more later on.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, we'll definitely dive in a little bit of that because, we've kind of been thinking, what we wanted to do. We've got a great club repeater ourselves, but we're always looking to kind of expand. And so we might be picking your brain a little later on that and watching you from afar as you kind of get that process going, because that I hear is always a challenge to get going. But once you get it established, it's even a longer challenge to keep it running. So we're with you on that. Cool. All right. Well, hey, let's throw it over to Paul. How's your ham radio week been? What's been going on?
Oh, well, so this has been my first week as an extra class operator. So I've been spending, oh yes. I've been spending as much time as possible in those new to me frequencies and chasing those DX stations that I just couldn't get as an extra. or as a general,
yes.
I mean. So yeah, so I've been just loving the new privileges and having a ton of fun in the lower parts of the band.
You
Very
see the
cool.
new
Now,
you see the new guy comes in, gets his extra, and then leaves me in the dust as the only general on the podcast. Like, geez, now I got to get my extra. Thanks.
you're still our friend. We still love you. You know,
Yeah.
we're not going to hate you for being a general. It's not the way.
When they don't want to talk to me, they'll just move over to the left a little bit on the
We'll
on the cool band.
the extra portion of the band. Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah, the cool portion where all the
Yeah,
cool
makes
guys
sense.
hang out.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I don't know many cool guys over in the extra portion of the band, but we'll have to discover that on our own. Cool. All right. Well, for me, I have been trying
Oh,
to
me.
resituate my mic or my computer shack a little bit. I've always been going through kind of the reiterations of reorganizing stuff, and I running a YouTube channel on my own on top of all the other stuff I've got my toes dipped in. It gets a little challenging to kind of just have a working shack that I can get in there and start making contacts. And so I've the benefit of having a flex, I've kind of been spoiled where I can sit in the living room and kind of use it there, but I really want to get back to being in front of a radio and trying to make more sideband contacts. So with the help of Paul and a lot of I don't know, pixie dust, whatever you want to fill in the gaps with. I'm trying to get this thing sorted out, and it's a whole new world, as they say. So once I get that under control, I think I'll be in better sorts. But that's kind of what's been going on, and been a little insane. Obviously, we finally, if you're from New England, you know that we've been deluged by all of the newscasts saying that we're going to get the big storm of the century and blah blah blah. And it's always the first storm that they always kind of she yell from the mountaintops that the sky is falling. We all been hit by snow in some form or fashion, and some of us have got to experience it firsthand. And being able to get out there and watch football in it. You can see Todd's face as he thaws it out because he's still smiling and he hasn't broke the smile. But overall, we're now hunkered down in all of our shacks. And I don't know about you, but I am not one to go out there and play with antennas unless they have been brought down by Mother Nature. And so, knock on wood, I have not experienced that yet. And so I think I'll be good for, hopefully a little bit, a lot longer before I have to worry about, anything going on that. But with that, so let's kind of dive into tonight's conversation.
Whoa. I didn't get a chance.
Oh.
Yeah, you skipped me.
Oh.
Thanks.
Oh,
See what happens? The general guy just gets pushed away. I get it.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot. I know. Sorry. It's the elite.
All right, real quick. So yes,
I
did. I just got back to the Patriots. I'm still frozen. I'm thawing out. Christmas gift for my wife, for me and my son. So we went, of course, the first day it snows, blizzard, whatever you want to call it, has to be on the day I have to go to the Patriots. But hey, why wouldn't it be that way? Anyway, ham radio stuff. Well, I was listening to the ham radio clubhouse, and I won this.
Okay, Ron.
QRP. You see it?
Yeah.
Awesome, right?
Is that from Quirky?
He's the Ron. He's a Ron, a dog,
Quirky QRP. So yeah, I was I couldn't believe it. What happened was I was like going to work. I worked third shift for some overtime. And I was on my phone, and then they do the thing, put in the thing. So I put the thing in and then all of a sudden my name comes up, and I was driving out of the driveway. And as soon as I lost the Wi-Fi connection, I lost the feed. So I had to go back and see what they were saying. So it was pretty funny. But so I did that. And then Eric and I on New Year's decided to go out and work on the rail trail because we are working on our kilo there. So that was first of the year, get out there, activate a park. It was a pretty good time. And we had what did we get, like 91? He wanted to stop on 90, but
I wanted to stop at 90. It's a nice round number. I gotta do one more. I can't feel bad for the guy that we.
The guy was calling in.
Please take my call. Oh,
yeah, so that's been going on, and then the whole way down to the Patriots and the whole way back, everyone's just talking about their wire antennas if they fell down or if they're still up in the tree. So I was just like, great. I'll probably come home with my luck and it'll be sitting on the ground, but it's still up there, so that's good.
It's permanently embedded in that tree. It's not coming down unless that pine comes down. So I think you'll be okay. So I did set you up. I said, you were thawing out, but then I just, went the opposite direction. So I sort of kind of, played you right in, but that's my excuse. But so with that, I'm going to say that, obviously we're missing one of our other hosts here, Ryan. He is unable to get to the show tonight, but he will be missed. And we were looking forward to having him on board, but he's also got a bunch of other stuff coming up. So we'll hopefully have him on the next couple of shows going forward before he has to jump in a jet and fly away again. So, stay tuned for that. And, Todd did mention about our, kilo that we were working on. We're just wrapping up a few minor details on the giveaway that we talked about in episode 21. So I'm not going to drop too much here, but definitely, pay attention to our websites and socials and whatnot, because we are polishing up a lot of that information for the giveaway to pick the date that we might, actually complete our kilo. And so, stay tuned for that. It'll be fun. Yeah, exactly. Paul's chiming in the background. The question pool is changing, so maybe Todd can get his, extra right before we get our kilo. We'll never know. Maybe it might work out that way. We'll see. So, cool. All right. Well, it's enough of the shenanigans and whatnot. And my apologies for the technical mix-ups there. So let's kind of dive in. So tonight we have got some great guests on tonight. Nick and Ben. They are part of, if you recall back, and it was about, I'd say almost right around a little bit more than a year ago or so, there was a New Hampshire Chronicle video that came out that they did a story on ham radio and ham radio on a rescue kind of approach. And I know a lot of hams, when they see stuff in the news and, things kind of get out into the public eye, they jump all over it and it gets posted everywhere. And so that kind of cycled through my mailbox and mail list that I'm on. And I was just like totally like, oh, wow, this is awesome. I love to see, ham radio in the news and getting more people, aware of ham radio and how important it can be. Because obviously the only time you ever hear really ham radio is, in the frame of, oh, do they still do that? Or, hey, are those guys still wearing their tinfoil hats and, running around with these long sticks and, pointy ends on them to try to talk to space aliens. And so it's always good to see, pieces like that, and definitely good ones that end on a good note. And so both Nick and Ben are here to tell the tale and tell us firsthand experiences what's going on. So that's definitely a plus in my book. So if you haven't had a chance and you may have missed it because for whatever reason you just weren't part of the news stream or whatever, we will have the actual link in our show notes, so you can definitely check that out and watch that other in your own time. But it's a great piece there, and really kind of tells the backstory a little bit. And Nick and Ben would definitely be probably talking more about the details and giving firsthand accounts, and then we're going to kind of open it up a little bit and see what other stuff's kind of going on and kind of what things they've learned from that, and where it's kind of taking them in the future. So without further ado, I assume Nick, you might be the guy to kind of set the stage. Tell us a little bit of kind of what your history is, your ham radio background, and Ben, you can follow up with that as well, because I think you got your ticket a little bit after this whole event.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah. Okay. So in essence, Nick, kind of fill us in, how you got in ham radio, what's the kind of your backstory with that a little bit, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah. So I got my ham radio license during COVID. But I was trying to get it for years back when they still had Novice.
Okay. Wow.
And I just never finished reading the book because it's not a page turner, as you guys know.
Yes.
I walked into ham radio outlet and they're like, here, take this book. Let us know when you're ready to test and we'll find a place for you.
Oh, so they were really helpful.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how they are until they warm up to you. I mean, I think they got a good crew there now, though. I'm in there probably once a month at least.
Oh, very cool.
Knock on wood, I've been in now 4 times without
That's
spending
amazing.
any money, so that's always a plus.
Wow.
Oh, well, then you don't want to hang around with us.
What's your secret?
I keep his wallet.
There you go.
But anyway, so my neighbor is a ham radio operator, and he got us to join our local CERT team, and then he was like, well, you should probably learn the radio stuff. And I was like, well, I've been meaning to do it. So I went on to what is it? Not
Hamstudy.org.
Ham radio prep.
Not ham study. The ham radio prep.
Oh,
Yep.
That's what I did
And,
for my technician.
Yep, I studied for about 3 hours, and then I went down to Port City and tested, passed with flying colors, failed my general epically. Then I got heavily involved in that, and then I started helping out with different public safety events on top of the CERT team. So I help out with the MS Society, the Boston Marathon,
Oh wow.
American Diabetes Association.
Very cool. See Nick
and,
here there.
conveniently, I'm wearing one of their safety shirts.
Green was your normal color.
So,
It's yellow.
Oh, yellow. Yeah, sorry, my eyes are failing me.
yeah, it's safety yellow, so it's got that greenish tinge.
True.
And then I proceeded to get my general license in that September, which was before this happened.
Okay.
And that was pretty much my story up until the event.
What was the date? Do you remember?
Of the event?
No, your general. I got mine September 11th. That same year, I think.
Let's see.
You get it down.
Now he's got his cell phone, and now he's got to double check.
Cell phone. Hold on, Ben. Why don't you explain where?
So
if you don't know, you don't have to look it up. I was just curious.
No, I'm curious.
I'm not going to be dating it. Don't worry, because I can barely remember when I got my ticket.
Because Nick, I was bullied into getting my.
You were not.
I was bullied by Eric to get my general. He basically said, "You're getting it on this day." No
regrets.
Heard it here. I'm making a t-shirt. Todd bullied me. That's what it's gonna be. No regrets. Yes, exactly.
There's somebody trying to make me get my general.
You got to get your general. It opens everything up.
Other people in with you when you want to have fun. It's like, come on, let's go. Stop using my call sign. Let's go.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, Nick's plugging away there. How about you, Ben? So kind of what's your story? Obviously, you were dragged like Todd was into ham radio. How does that look for you?
So I wasn't really dragged in. So my whole thing was, CERT, joined CERT, need ham. Okay. Fought to learn it for 2.5 years. And then finally got it last year.
Yay. Oh, wow. Congratulations. Awesome.
Sadly, didn't have it during when we needed it for the rescue, but ever since then, I've got my base station truck. I've been rag chewing the whole time with a local repeater, and got my guys in the morning and guys in the afternoon I chat with, and everybody's going and having fun.
Nice. Now, do you guys, I assume, what's like the repeater coverage and stuff like that, like for you guys in that general area? Is it very active, or is it like the typical New England repeaters where it's like, there's a few that hang out and then there's, the spotty, typical, regular, work schedule, drive in, drive out times that's usually active?
Drive in and drive out. If you're on between 5:30 in the morning and 8, you can hit the dairy repeater. And there'll be guys on it. And then between 4 and 6 in the afternoon, there'll be other guys as well.
Okay, cool.
So I'm guessing you guys talked to AA1. What is it?
AA1W.
W. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I went with him a couple times.
He goes on vacation. That repeater goes dead. Right? When he's on it, it's like the repeater's happening. Like, you can't even get in because everyone wants to talk to him.
Yeah, that's the.
Yeah, well, I know, but I'm just saying, like, he's like, oh, I'm going to be on vacation or I'm going to be off this week, and the whole week, like, that repeater's just like quiet. I'm like, where'd everyone go?
So going into work, I'd always be chatting. I'd have like 2 or 3 guys, and we'd always do like a small net kind of situation where we'd all rotate through. That'd be the way in. On the way out, it'd usually be 1 or 2 other guys, and we do a small little triangle of how we're doing it on the way home, and that's how we typically do it. And then there's times where it's like bad weather. I'll just chime on and I'll throw my call sign, and then next thing I know, I'm having 5-minute conversations all the way home with like 80 different people.
Yep.
Because everybody's trying to figure out what's going on.
The latest updates, always good stuff. So, yeah, big game. Love the repeaters that are pretty active. I mean, our tends to be similar, same scenarios like most in the New England area of their activity and whatnot. But yeah, we've kind of been blessed in the same way with a lot of the guys are usually around. And I'm not a shy guy. I'll throw my call out there so much that it annoys a lot of the older guys. I'm sure having, I'm JUR again. Why do I have to hear anyone JUR again? And then, sometimes they answer because they've got nothing else going on, and sometimes they're just like, yeah, just let it go. So I don't like that.
Yeah. There's two repeaters that I listen to, and both are very active. You got the Port City repeater, and then you have the Derry repeater.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the Aries group for Port City, so.
Oh, very cool.
They keep it very active.
So you guys both basically very active in CERT in both Aries as well, and or just CERT together? So
CERT together, Aries is me.
Okay.
I'm very involved in the Aries stuff. He's mostly the CERT. I'm actually the communications leader for my CERT team. And so I usually do
general class, and everybody else has technician.
No, it's because no, it's just simply because I like to study things, so I went through all the ICSs and all that stuff, and I've been around the fire department my whole life, so I'm just used to how they communicate, so I'm able to be a good middleman when there's actually an activation. I can take what they're saying on their repeater and make it into terms that my team can understand and help coordinate a little better.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who are in that same Aries race season. They have a lot of fire and commercial kind of EMS experience, and communications is obviously a big thing in their life, and they can do that translation very well, and it works out good for them.
Sorry, just out of curiosity,
trait to have for sure.
Did you get into CERT after the event on December 4th, 2022, or was this something you were interested in ahead of time?
Before. Yeah, I was in CERT. We joined CERT 2021, sometime in 2021.
2020, December 2020.
Okay. Yeah. And I got my general ticket on August 30th of 22.
Okay, so just right after COVID stopped, locking everything down, and you were able to. Did you actually do a fit-in test or online?
I did it online. I was actually in Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, in a cabin, and I took my test up there.
Talk about being isolated. I'm sure they were like.
Okay, for him to get internet capable enough to do the test, he had to shut off all his cameras, have a Wi-Fi hotspot via his cell phone, and have his cell phone recording him via video so he could do it.
Yeah, it was fun. There was a lot of lag, but it worked, and they were all happy.
Yeah, I would say that can be challenging. We've had a few friends who'd similar thing. Their internet wasn't that great, and it's there was a struggle. Like he'd be talking, and then he'd freeze for like 5.5 minutes, and then finally come back, and they'd be like, "Did you answer my last question?" He's like, "I can't answer the last question because I'm still on the first one. What's going on?" So yeah, it's kind of really crazy, but it was a great time. But I mean, I think from that, I've seen like a huge increase of folks that got their ticket and just or used that opportunity to upgrade. I know I was in that same boat, and I was a no code technician for 20 years before I kind of said, hey, when I my brother, who's another ham short story, pulled me back in and was like, oh, you got to do ham radio. And I was just like, okay, sure. And I got in and it was like, oh my gosh, it's changed since what it used to be when it was like 300 baud packet radio, and the radios were size of a half of a microwave. And so I was just like, okay, this is just not going to work for me. And so finally when I rolled back in, took the general test, I was like, oh cool, I don't have to do code, which I was really horrible at. So I feel you when you said you'd go back to the novice level, because that was the same way for me. It was just like, I can't do code for them to save my life. And especially if in this experience that we're going to talk about now, I mean, if you had to do Morse code, I don't know, you still might be freezing in the middle of nowhere, because that would be a very big challenge for a lot of us.
No, he would have come back to me and I would have told him to go farther.
Very cool. All right. Well, hey, so let's kind of segue into that a little bit. So, those that obviously I mentioned the the New England Chronicle show, and if you haven't had a chance to go look at that, like I said, the link is in the bottom of our show notes. So definitely check that out, and can learn a little bit about backstory. But so Nick, do you want to kind of set the stage a little bit, give us a little bit of detail on it, and tell us from your firsthand experience, because obviously when you get into stories like that, I'm sure that they boil it down quite quickly for you, and so give us the dirty details, as they say.
Yeah, actually, the interview was 40 minutes long, and I think I got about 3 minutes of airtime out of the whole thing. Um, so, so we decided that we were going to go up to Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, just to get away for a night. We go up to Pittsburgh, New Hampshire very regularly. I've got mapped over somewhere around 800 miles of trails up there. And so I'm very familiar with it. I go up there, or I was going up there year round. Usually the snow isn't bad by that time because, it's usually like it is down here in southern New Hampshire. They don't usually see the snow till the new year. So we figured we were safe. And when I was walking out the door, I was actually heading to another event before we were going up. And I grabbed my Undertone 878 on my way out the door just as a last minute thing. I just grabbed it and brought it out, and I was like, I probably won't need it, but at least we have it if we need it. Went to my event. We got in at like 11 o'clock at night to the cabin. Woke up the next morning, had a great breakfast, and then we traditionally, if anybody's familiar with Pittsburgh, there's a main dirt road called McGalloway Road, and you can take it from New Hampshire, Route 3 in New Hampshire, to another road called Parmacini Road, which is in Maine, which then takes you out to Route 16 in McGalloway, Maine, and then you follow Route 16 down to Errol, and then we'd go back home through like Berlin and all of that. So when we first got on the road, the sign said that the road was closing the next week. They usually close the road because they do logging throughout the winter. But the road looked plowed. There was a little bit of snow, but I've been driving in New England my whole life, so it was good.
No big deal.
It was literally a dusting of snow, just enough to cover the road, and the grass next to it you could see greener than day.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, but as we continued down the road, the elevation goes up, and as it was going up, the snow was getting deeper and deeper. And then I started feeling that I was losing traction, and it was a brand new car. It had 1,000 miles on it.
Oh, what? 5,000, yeah.
Yeah, it was somewhere between 1,000 and 5,000 miles. So I decided that it was time to turn around when I started losing traction. So the sun went away. So the sun was out, the snow was melting. It then flash froze.
Cool.
So we decided to turn around. So I pulled up a side road to pull up, and then I was going to back down. And as soon as I got it back onto the dirt, we started sliding down a hill. And I corrected it 3 times, but I still proceeded to go around in three complete circles.
Oh my! So you're already coming back down the hill in rotation form, or is it
Yeah.
He remembers 3. I remember 2.
Yeah.
Mainly because I was in the passenger seat.
So where we ended up was I was facing the same direction that I was trying to back out to. So I was facing up the hill, and the car was hanging over where a big culvert is with an active river below it.
Oh boy!
It was maybe about 6 feet or so. It wasn't like a huge river. It was just a brook, but it was moving pretty good because the snow was melting and all that throughout the day. And now I thought I was hung up on a rock. Come to find out when we pulled it out that the only thing that was holding the car was compressed snow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I couldn't get out of the vehicle because the vehicle was sliding and I was on the side that was impacted in the snow.
Yeah.
He was
So-
also about 6 inches, maybe 8, from the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, that's Cliff.
The side
Okay.
of the road.
Wow.
And so Ben ended up getting out and grabbing. We have, we're usually very prepared because I was in the Boy Scouts. He was an outdoorsman from Maine, so we tend to have what we need to be prepared for
Self-sufficient.
whatever.
Yeah.
We got chainsaws, ropes. I had a satellite communicator. Obviously, my ham radio.
We had a GPS
None of the stuff
thing
was
that
it's
you
like,
click
hey,
on.
we're just, we're goofing off. We're just going to go up the side of a mountain and figure out what.
Oh no,
Right.
no,
It sounds like
we're way more prepared than that.
Yeah, and like I said, I've driven this road a million times, and I've driven it in the winter too. So it wasn't like this was an unusual place for me to be. And so he got out and he went to secure the vehicle. And while he was securing the vehicle, the cables, it was rope, but I'm going to call it a cable, snapped, and the hook came and hit his left knee.
Yeah. So do you want me to take it to give this little spit?
Yes.
Okay. So I got the front secure with a slightly taut line, went and put a back one on, so we had 2 points of contact to slide it back onto the road.
Mhm.
Well, I tightened the back one, went to tighten the front one, got it pretty good, and I was on my way back over to him to tell him to give it a little gas to try and get it out. Well, I added an extra little crank as I was walking, and that extra little crank caused the line to overtension and snap.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
So
it's
the line snapped, so you hear boom, the line snapping, and then I dropped because the shackle that I had struck the inner side of my left knee, dislocating my leg instantly.
oh, holy crap.
Whilst it was dislocated, I proceeded to loosen the come along I had, rehook everything back up to the vehicle, retension it, told him to get out, and that's how he was able to get out of the vehicle
No
safely.
car with that. Right. Okay. Wow. And meanwhile, you're probably bleeding, or at least
Yeah.
small
I just,
internal.
so your leg is supposed to look straight. My leg was cockeyed.
Wow.
And I army crawled, resecured the vehicle, and told him to get out.
Wow. That's
So what? Yeah, once I got out of the vehicle, I helped him get off the road because we were in the middle of the road. I mean, we had cables going across the road, but because there was nowhere to secure it on the side where we were, the other side was like a trench. So there were trees that we were able to secure to. So I got him off the road, and then he said, well, try to use the GPS, the satellite communicator. We had a spot. It wouldn't connect. And it's designed to work with satellites.
Yeah.
It just would not connect.
Wow.
So that spot we have is an annual fee every year, and it's supposed to work worldwide. Well, we found the one location it does not work.
Did you get your annual fee back?
No, we just didn't renew.
We didn't renew.
Good idea.
And
then-
we told the company that we will never be using it again.
Wow.
So then I proceeded, because when they sold me my car, they said that the SOS button was satellite. Yeah, no, that's cellular.
Oh,
There's no cell service up there. So I was like,
Strike two.
strike two.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, woo.
So the goal of communication is slowly falling apart.
Right.
Cell
So
phones were strike three.
yeah. So then the cell phones wouldn't connect. So that left me with my ham radio. Well, when I keyed up my radio on the W1NH repeater, I could hear it ka-chunking, but I could not hear the Morse code identifier. So it was keying up, but I wasn't able to hear it, and that means they weren't really able to hear me. But I know that when I had my mobile in my truck, that I was able to hit it no problem. Obviously 50 watts versus 5 watts. But So I knew that if I could get to higher ground, I'd be okay, but I didn't want to leave Ben.
Sure.
So I got Ben settled, and he told me I gotta go. So he proceeded to get off the road. He built a little bit of a shelter with some pine boughs. He readjusted his knee, put it back into place, and then proceeded to strap
That's a whole story on
six.
its own.
Yeah, and then he proceeded to strap his leg and secure it himself while I was hiking up the hill to get to higher ground. So finally, I got through to somebody, and Derek, KC1QXL, who's from Vermont. So now I'm talking through the Mount Washington repeater to, like, I think he said Barrie, Vermont.
Yep.
You know, it's like way far away. And it must have just been a small point of clarity because he heard me calling. Now he thought I was trying to, because Mount Washington repeater's so high, he thought I was just trying to get a freak contact.
Sure. Right.
Because people do that. They're like, how far can I make a contact?
Yeah, that was not for a contact.
So I was trying everything I could think of. I was trying to use the DTMF on the keypad so that somebody might recognize, 911 for an emergency. I was calling I was saying everything I could think of. Emergency, 911, because I knew they weren't getting everything, but if they recognized a piece of it, they might do something.
So let's hold up there for a second. So in terms of like what you had for gear, obviously you've got your anytone with you running off just a standard extended whip, or was on the rubber duck antenna. Like, kind of what's that scenario?
Signal stick.
Okay. So you got a decent antenna. So you definitely, that probably gave you the extra, able, to reach the repeater. Okay. And is that one of the only repeaters, or one of the general repeaters in the area that's usually pretty good for when you're in the clear or on the side of a mountain, or, is that, or just use your
one
go-to
that
repeater?
hits the area that I know of.
So there's 6 repeaters locally, but the problem is that people aren't monitoring them.
Sure.
So I figured that the W1NH repeater, I usually hear people rag chewing on the weekends. So I figured if I had a chance to get through, it'd be there. I did try 2 Canadian repeaters because you're right on the Canadian border, and sometimes those are pretty active. But where I was in the valley, Canada was on the other side of like a mountain.
So you already had it against you. Okay.
So basically, there was mountain behind us, and then like a slope up another mountain. That was further off in the distance, and that's basically where we were.
So, or you're tough terrain at this point. So, hey, Paul or Todd, you guys got anything you want to throw in here before we?
No, I know that I used to go snowmobiling up there, so I know how desolate it is. So, So it doesn't surprise me nothing worked. The satellite thing I'm kind of shocked about, but I was thinking, like, if you were if we were in a less remote area and you weren't sitting in between 2 mountains, I guess you could have tried the national call, frequencies. But
there's no way you would.
There's not a lot of people up there either, so that I don't get a lot of action on that down here anyway. Down in southern New Hampshire, so probably not. So you got this repeater, and you got this guy in Vermont, and he's only hearing, you think, part of what you're saying, correct?
Yeah. And he ended up we ended up coming up with a system because there was this one moment where everything aligned and he actually understood it was an emergency and where we were.
Wow. Okay.
And then one word, emergency, and that was it.
And then after that, it went dead again. So we were actually communicating. It was 1 key for yes, 2 keys for no.
Okay. Now, did he come up with that system, or how did that kind of? I know he kind of touched upon it a little bit of the video, but so did he just desperate measures at that point to come up with some way to be able to communicate with you, or just how did that kind of break out?
Yeah, he was. He came up with it, and he was saying that. Now he was actually listening to the input frequency. He was getting me better. He was getting me better on simplex than he was through the repeater.
From Vermont,
and that.
Holy.
Yeah, he's got a. I haven't seen it, but I've heard stories. It's a pretty impressive setup. Okay. Although now I think he's rebuilding now, so it might not be there anymore.
Now, is he up high too, like on top of the mountain, or is he just?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest.
I remember us talking with him, and he said he did recently move less than 100 feet. He moved across the street to a new house,
Okay.
iconically. But he lives on like the side of a mountain that's easily, the best way he said it, facing the Mount Washington repeater and Pittsburgh.
So okay.
He's
So
got
yeah,
a clear line of sight.
Yeah,
So he's
yeah.
got a clear line of sight to the repeater and us in a general way.
Now, how
Awesome.
many do you know how many miles away he was from either the repeater or your location?
I did
From
know
us
that.
to the repeater was 75 miles, and from the repeater to him was another 50 to 70, I think
Wow.
it was. So it was realistically estimating here, mind you, about 135
That's pretty far.
miles.
Yeah, we were figuring it was about 100 miles.
Yeah, that's and listening on the input of all of it, not just like listening
Yeah.
from the repeater, snapping back. Wow.
Yeah, actually, that trick has helped me in other emergency situations too. Since then, helping people during doing emergency comms for net control and stuff. Sometimes when we get on the edge of our events, we have to go to simplex, and it works.
Cool.
But yeah, so once he knew it was an emergency, he called 911, and actually, I heard this story from the dispatch at the hospital. The hospital was listening to it, and they were telling us that the call came in, and they said there's some guy from Vermont saying that there's 2 guys stranded up here.
Yeah.
And they sent out
They said everybody.
Yeah, when they got out
And their
there,
cousins.
yes. So when the first responders got to the end of the road, they realized, the whole road flash froze. It was sheet of sheer ice.
Yeah. Okay.
We actually bought crampons that morning at the local store, so I was happy I had those too to walk up the ice.
That'd be great. Yeah.
So I got a quick question. So the hospital was monitoring the repeater, but could only hear the guy in Vermont. How did the hospital?
So the police bands, they were monitoring the EMS bands. So when they got the call, it was through dispatch.
Oh, okay, I got
Dispatch told them 2 guys are stuck up somewhere in Pittsburgh, and from my understanding, they were told the car had rolled multiple times, and both occupants were ejected, and one of them managed to call out via ham radio.
Wow.
Yeah, so they thought it was a lot.
Which isn't exactly what happened, but that'll get their attention, right?
Yeah, it got them there quick.
Yeah.
With everybody and their cousins.
Jeez.
So they ended up actually getting the logging company to come out with a what are those things called? A grader. And they came and they broke up the ice, and that's what took them so long to get to me, because that thing couldn't go very fast.
Yeah.
And so once they got to us, we had a fire going. We were getting warm. We were prepared. Yeah, so
pretty much.
We were prepared. If we had to survive, we probably could have survived for 3 or 4 days before needing anything. We had food, we had water, we had a way to filter water, we had to boil water, fire starters. Obviously it was cold. It was really cold by the end.
You couldn't use the shelter because that was off the side of the road. So
exactly.
Me being the backwoods bearded redneck I am, and I'll admit it, I typically carry about 2 or 3 Mylar blankets in a small little leg pouch thing that anybody can walk with. That's also a small med kit. I also have a small survival kit, and I typically have a backpack with me. Well, on this time, we didn't take the backpack. We're just like, it's an overnight. We're seeing some buddies. Whatever. We'll take the small little kit. Luckily, we didn't need the kit. Sadly, the kit had the better fire starter in it. I only had a lighter that was almost out of fuel.
Okay.
But we managed to get a fire going for 2 hours
You're more well prepared though, and even though the kits weren't refreshed and whatnot.
At least
I know I go through my stuff periodically, but not enough periodically to realize that maybe every season or every other season they'll be like, oh yeah, I should check my gear. So,
I typically go through my gear 3 to 4 times a year.
yeah,
That's
definitely.
not just to check up on it. That's to remind myself what I have in it. That's to refresh and renew anything that's
Hello?
gone past its use date.
Mhm.
And if something's broken or has gotten broken whilst I haven't been using that kit, I can then replace it with a new one and add new gear.
So
remove old
just
gear,
out of curiosity, right? You guys
Very
are
cool.
very like-minded with
Cool.
myself in preparedness is
You
key,
gonna say
right? The more prepared you can be for any potential
Paul,
situations,
you got anything you want
the
to
better
ask there
off you're
before
gonna
Nick
be,
picks
no
the start
matter
back
what
up again? And
But so just out of curiosity, right? So you get the Anytone 878. You were actively involved in CERT by that point. So what did you have pre-programmed in as like your basic, and then your the crap hit the fan? These are the frequencies I need.
So in that radio, I have it's my favorite radio simply because it has zones. So I actually have a zone specifically for northern New Hampshire emergency band, things like that. So the repeaters I mentioned earlier, the two in Canada, there's one in Clarksville. Then they had the Mount Washington repeater. I had the simplex calling frequency. I had the 440 calling frequency. And I think there's like 3 or 4 others in there too, because I kind of use that for the general whole area all the way down through Errol. So there's a couple over near there that I have in there as well. So I do have a lot of them in there. And I tried every single one until I realized the only one that could hear me was Mount Washington.
okay, yeah, I think you got
that radio has everything under the sun programmed into it.
Yeah,
for New England.
I would agree with that one.
Well,
I just wish more companies would come up with that zone system, because it's so nice when you're doing public service stuff. You just go, oh, I'm on this event, and here's my frequencies.
Yeah, I don't think we want to turn this into for top manufacturer hate of sign their programming.
Let's get.
I am not against any manufacturers. Again,
we could devote a whole entire show to that and how much it rubs a lot of people the wrong way, and sometimes myself, and they all want to be innovative sometimes, and at the spite of functionality and purpose. But another story for another time. So all right, cool. So at this point, so just kind of in general, you've tried everything, you've gotten everything established. How did the process, and maybe I might be jumping a little bit ahead, how did they triangulate where you were? Did they just kind of work up? Did they have a rough idea what road system you were in to where you were, or did you get that communicated somehow? Or
yeah, so they knew that we were on McGalloway Road. Okay. And they heard that I was in the area of the fire tower. So the fire tower was about a mile before where we were.
The fire tower, just so reference can be given, is about 9 miles down this road. Mm-hmm. And then there's a turn off to your right if you're going south. And once you turn that, it's like 30 miles up into the woods. And then there's a mountain that's like 5 miles away from the road we were on, with an actual fire tower with a lookout on it.
Okay.
And we used that intersection as a reference for EMS, fire, and everybody to get to us easier. So they knew, okay, they're roughly within this area.
Yeah. So I knew I was within about a mile. So that was that moment of clarity. We were able to communicate.
Oh, wow. So that just worked out perfect then. You were able to actually give them at least some coordinates, because I was like, when the way the story was kind of written, I kind of left the question to me. It's like, how did they know where they were? And like, he's only able to click 1 for yes and 2 for no. It's like, you can't translate that. And he doesn't talk about him being good with proficient in Morse code. So, I was like, well, maybe, there's gotta be some other way. So, all right, cool. So a moment of clarity happened, and the repeaters were able to get your voice out. And so, okay. All right, cool. Good.
Yeah. And it turns out that while this was all going on, the antenna was not functioning properly. It was at like half.
It was at half mast and down for maintenance.
Yeah. So the fact that we were able to use it at all was just insane. It was all just really surprising.
And so they changed
the repeat. The repeater
was down for maintenance.
Oh, yes. So it was half. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we got really lucky. I mean, they were still using it, but the antenna wasn't at full height, and the repeater wasn't on full power.
Yep. Wow.
So it was. I'm curious if we were at full power and full height, if this would have gone a lot easier, because they called 911 because they didn't know how severe it was.
Sure.
Realistically, if we had perfect communications, I would have just said, "Hey, we need a tow truck out here."
There's no class
and then I would have brought Ben in for medical evaluation after getting out. Just so everybody knows, AAA does not cover anything on dirt.
So did you cancel that subscription too?
No.
That's another thing altogether.
Yeah, exactly.
No diamond roads.
But so when they finally got out to us, we got in the back of a pickup truck. They brought us out, and on the way out, we passed by the tow truck. I got out and got in the tow truck.
Ooh.
Ben went to get evaluated at the hospital. And then when we got down there, the tow truck guy, he said something along the lines of, you realize that this is a brand new truck. And I'm like, yep. And he goes, do you know why this is a brand new truck? And I go, nope. And he said, because the same thing happened to me last year.
Wow.
Agent wanted the tow truck back.
So he did that to make me feel better, I'm sure. But they got that thing out. So when it actually came out, it slid across the ice. And it almost slid all the way into the other ditch. That's how icy it was by the time they got up there.
And I had the ropes under such tension that he took my axe and touched the blade, because I keep it so sharp, touched the blade to the ropes, and they just went.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of tension.
In so many ways.
Yeah, and they got it all out, and they ended up using the grader to actually pull me up the hill. And then once we were up the hill, I drove it out on its own power.
Wow.
So there was no damage to the car because it was all snow. I was very, very lucky.
Very lucky. Amazing.
Well, there was damage.
Yes.
Because I had to use a flathead screwdriver to pop the front tow hook open. Screw that. Okay. And then the tow truck scratched the undercarriage when he put the hook on the bottom.
I'll take it.
Other than that, nothing.
If you could drive it on your own power and whatnot, so yeah, that's quite amazing. So all right, yeah. So you got out of there safe, which is awesome. The communications was, everything was totally against you, 100%, no matter what scenario you thought you brought for, covered it for. So back to kind of Ben's leg and whatnot. So obviously you're able to walk and everything's all good at this point. There's no major amputations or anything and whatnot. So you obviously had to, I don't want to get too gory into the details because we're not that type of podcast, but obviously yeah, right, exactly. So we're new demographic guys here. Attract a whole new audience. We're the Ham Radio podcast that talks about blood and guts, and if you're not into that, then don't bother. It's kind of talk a little bit about that. So obviously, it happened, and you mentioned popping your knee back in. So kind of talk us through that a little bit.
Oh boy, the fun part that I don't like talking about much. I lie. So what happened was I handed Nick back his radio, and I said, "Go get help. You're the licensed one. Go get help." Yeah. So he walks off. Me being wilderness me, get a couple tree branches, make a little wind barrier thing.
Mhm.
So I'm out of the wind. I have better control on my situation at that point. I take the leather sheath off of my axe, stuff it in my mouth, and go 1, 2, gung ho,
Oh,
rip, and pop my knee almost all the way back in.
oh,
I
oh.
then proceed, which I do have a photo, it is not graphic, to take ropes and 2 sticks and self-splint my leg to the
Okay.
point it's no longer mobile. And from there, I was then able to stand up, get up to where we had a fire to start a fire, and we were able to get out. Now, this is the photo, and I'll show you guys if you can see it.
We'll get him to send it to us, and we'll throw that in the show notes too as well. And so,
Yeah, it's not. I can't really get it because of the glare on my camera and
Yeah,
everything.
it is.
But
Um,
I had 3 sections of rope on the top half, 3 sections on the bottom half, shin and thigh, and there was no moving my leg.
Yep.
By the time we got the fire going and they got there, my leg was numb.
Oh,
In
I
the
believe-
good way, because I could not feel it anymore.
which is good. Yeah. And so,
So
what,
they thought,
what's the, kind of the outcome of it? I mean, obviously they looked at you. They, obviously Nick got you in there, and to the some more medical attention. And what's that kind of
Yep.
look like?
so they showed up with the skid steer, not the skid steer, the grader.
Yeah.
Grader drove by, and 2 pickup trucks showed up, a white one and a black one. They went, "Oh, we need to get you in the front cab. We need to assess you better." And I looked them deadpan in the face, and I went, "You're not getting me in the cab."
For what reason? Just because you're mobile?
Well, we want to get you in the front cab so we can warm you up, get you nice and happy and toasty, get you some meds. And I'm like, my leg is numb.
Mhm.
I don't want to feel this. And getting me in the cab is not going to work.
Sure.
I can't bend my leg.
Yeah.
So they get me to the back of the truck. And me being me, I got like a belt on so I can have extra gear on me for when I get out of the vehicles to walk.
Yep.
So they grab me by the belt, this heavy duty belt, and they proceed to 1, 2, hi ho, lift me into the bed of the truck, and then slide me to the front. Nick climbed on the other side into the bed, and we went out.
Okay.
The entire time on the way out, the paramedic is looking at me going, "I should give you meds. You want meds? I can make you nice and happy. You want some meds?" And I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't want them.
Sure.
Get to the back of the ambulance. So we drop Nick off. He gets back in the tow truck, heads back to get the car. They pull me out to the main road. I get out of the bed of the truck, get on a gurney, get in the ambulance. The cop, the one of the 2
Mhm.
that was
Who's
there,
the chief?
and they only have 2 cops.
Chief.
The
Who's
chief
of police?
jumps in the back of the truck and goes, "You guys are getting $30,000 fines for this. You're
Wow.
going to
What?
jail. This is BS. We're throwing the book at you."
Are you
Blowing
kidding
his
me?
top off. No,
Wow.
Why?
he
Why?
blew his top off.
I'll go into that after.
We'll go into detail more on that. So,
Sorry to hear it.
the cop jumps out,
That's
and ambulance takes off toward the hospital. And they're like, "We've got the heat on 100, full blast. We need to warm you up." And now this is the non-head medic person in the ambulance, and is going, we need to warm you up. You're really cold. Your core temperature is 96.
Okay.
I look her deadpan in the face, and I go, "I'm happy like I just finished a bottle of whiskey. I don't want to warm up."
You're probably
So they
dying.
shut off the heat and turn on the air conditioning.
Oh, jeez.
And my jacket's open, and they're keeping the air conditioning on to keep my leg numb. They wheel me into the hospital, which is like 3 ED rooms, and that's it. The entire hospital's maybe
Small
100
hospital.
foot by 100 foot long.
Yep.
They get me in, and Doc walks in, takes one look at me, and goes, "I'll be right back." Turns around, and I hear over the PA, "All doctors and nurses to ER room," and it conveniently was my room.
Yeah.
Everybody walks in and goes, "Oh, "You're the guy that got hurt." And I
Just
go, "Yeah, that was most likely me." And they go, Did you relocate that and splint it on your own?" I go, "Yeah. The only rope I care about in this entire splint is this orange one. That's it. You can have the rest of it." So they go and they proceed to cut the ropes off. I take the one orange rope I wanted to keep, put that in my pocket. We do x-rays and everything. Doctor walks in and goes, boop, and just pokes my kneecap, and it pops back into position. The spot it should be.
And you got a $10,000 bill for that.
And I'm happy it wasn't.
This is the most excitement this ER had in probably months.
Probably.
Like, they were
most
like,
likely.
"We got a real patient right now."
Exactly. Daddy knows how to put his leg in a proper splint.
I know, right? He made it too
Turns
easy for
out-
us.
3 weeks prior, a gentleman had climbed up the fire tower trail
Oh.
that we had passed, fell about 200 to 300 feet, shattered his leg, didn't know how to splint it, had no medical knowledge, no survival knowledge, and was there for a week.
Oh.
Finally got rescued, and he's doing good. He's perfectly fine now, but didn't know what to do. So everybody was shocked that this bearded guy that looks like a city slicker just rolled into their ER on an EMS bed and has his leg splinted and says he did it on his own. And relocated his own knee in the field with no pain meds.
I'd have to say your beard probably was a little shorter, so I don't think if I looking at you now that you're a city slicker, you're more like definitely a backwoods guy for sure. With a longer beard, there's no doubt.
I do think I had it trimmed and looking good at the time, I will admit.
Okay, so that's probably where the confusion started there. But I'd say overall, it sounded like you definitely all the training, Boy Scouts, as you're all talking, and then all my Boy Scout training is all floating back up in my head and everything else like that. Sound totally like okay, yeah, that makes sense. I remember that. Okay, I remember that. So yeah, it sounded like you definitely showed them up or two, and they were definitely surprised.
They put an immobilizing brace on my left leg. And on the way out of the hospital, at this point, Nick's there. We're on our way out. Mind you, I left the ropes and the sticks in the ER room. Mm-hmm. Nurse steps out and goes, sir, excuse me. I turn back. Yeah, what's up? They go, don't you want your ropes and your sticks for a good story? I look her deadpan in the face, straight-faced, and I go, you can burn them at effigy for all I care. Good luck. And we left.
Wow. That's crazy.
So to wrap up the whole story, we got home, we obviously got home a lot later than expected because this all happened, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. We were planning on being home by 3. Mm-hmm. We ended up getting home at like 3 in the morning.
Oh, yep.
The initial spin out happened at about 10 o'clock in the morning. By the time we were rescued and everything had happened, it was about 4:30 in the afternoon.
And by the time I got out of the trail after getting towed out and stuff, it was pitch black out.
Yep, I believe it.
Wow. So after Ben told me what the police chief did, I was sitting on the edge of my seat, nervous for a couple weeks, and I'm on my way home from work, and I get a call from this New Hampshire number, and I answer it. And he says, don't worry about anything. He says, you guys were so prepared. If we find the people that are prepared, people are never going to want to be prepared.
Right.
So, we're happy you're safe. He says, just pay the bill for the logging company. Wow. So that's what we did. Because that was a private company.
Which took it from like $50,000 to $500.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
it wasn't that much, but yeah, it was a big amount that they were going to come after us for. But luckily, we didn't damage anything. We were good. Ben's knees healed really well.
I still don't understand. Like, you had a car accident on a road. Why would they blame you?
Because part of the thing is that these roads they're privately owned. The logging company takes their roads very seriously. The town can lose permission to utilize these roads at any time by these private companies, and they utilize them for emergency services, snowmobiling, things like that. So when things happen and people do stupid things, they get very agitated because they can lose that with a snap of their finger. And once it's gone,
Yeah.
it's really hard to get it back. And this is their primary route.
Yeah.
So, if
This is one of 2 main routes into the town.
so
Wow.
they take it very seriously. Now, I feel as though they were kind of just talking a big game to make us realize how lucky we were.
Sure.
I don't really think they could have gone after us for much, but it definitely it instilled some fear into us for a while till we had a conversation with them.
Well, it just turns that lever a little higher as like I'm going to prepare to bring every, I'm going to even have a backup car in tow when I'm going up the next time I go.
But I get it. Like when you're going to go hiking and it's like going to snow and you're wearing like shorts and a t-shirt and running shoes, and then you call, you need to be airlifted out of there. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
But you guys were in a car. You spun out on ice. It wasn't like you were like racing down the road.
No.
I mean, everything was just an unfortunate event, but I'm glad it just worked out. All you had to do was pay the logging fee. I mean,
and the towing fee. That was very expensive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, they had 2 life flight helicopters on standby with their crews
Ready to go
at the doors of the copter, ready to take off.
Wow.
At the drop of a hat.
So
come get us.
You guys obviously are sitting by this campfire, just kind of hunkered down, waiting for. What came up on you? Is like, did you expect that? Like, when you're like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" Like, just like kind of like casually like inviting them in to have a s'more or something, or was it like?
It's actually kind of what happened. So when they actually rolled up, we had the little fire going. It was maybe a foot tall, maybe 6 inches wide, just enough to warm us up.
Yep.
And they roll up with the grader and the 2 trucks. Nick goes with the grader and the cops because he's got to. And there I am talking to EMS and what was it, a park ranger?
No, it was a fire warden.
Oh, that's right.
The first thing they said when they got off,
and EMS are looking at me at this tiny little fire, and they're like, "Well, at least you're staying warm in a safer location than probably you were at." Because behind me, less than 3 feet, was a stream.
Wow.
In front of me was the road. The only physical burnable stuff in that spot was me and the timber we had gathered off the ground.
Right.
Wow. There was nothing else.
And the first thing they said when they got out of the car is, "Let's put that fire out. The fire warden's here. We don't want him seeing that." So they came over. They stopped it out real quick. Yeah. And I was like, "Do you realize how hard it was to get that thing going?"
Did you get a permit for that fire?
Right.
No, we got a survival situation going that we need it for.
Now, the other thing, too, is when we could hear them from a very long way away, because when it's cold, you can hear things a lot further. Mm-hmm. So we could hear that big engine on that grader. They were probably still 2 or 3 miles out. So we didn't know if they actually got the information of how far in we were. So we actually... I utilized more of my training, and I did the SOS with my pistol.
It's 3 distinct gunshots.
Yeah.
Simultaneously. So it's bang, 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 all about a second to 2 seconds apart.
And because I knew if I could hear them, that they're going to hear that, and that might make them realize they got further to go. And the other thing we did is once that fire was going, we put all kinds of pine. Once it was really going, we put all kinds of pine boughs on it to get the smoke going. Wow. And they said they could see the smoke, but they said they never heard the gunshots. But
it's because that's just like a natural sound out there. They probably hear 1,000 of those things. They don't hear them anymore.
So
that's true.
At the time we had gone off the road, it wasn't hunting season.
Yeah.
So hearing a gunshot of any sort, law enforcement's going to investigate. But during hunting season and normal seasons when it's not hunting, if you hear 3 distinct gunshots, any normal outdoorsman, hunter, hiker, off-roader, anybody that knows those signs is gonna go and investigate.
Well, so
I don't care who you are.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, you're gonna go, you're gonna check it out, you're gonna see why somebody shot 3 rounds.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I wanted to touch base on what I've changed a little bit in my ham radio, if that's okay.
Yeah, so let's. So I think we kind of wrapped it up. Any you guys want to jump in with any other questions before we kind of dive into some of the other stuff, or you guys, Paul, Todd, you good?
Oh, I forgot to say.
yeah, so I got
Hi,
2
Paul.
questions for you.
And Todd.
So the first one is while you're well prepared,
He's physically
what
behind
specific medical
Nick.
training
Yeah.
did
It's
you
not
guys
not
have?
a mind trick.
like,
Sorry,
in
guys.
your
Those that are
arsenal
watching
to
on
fall back
the podcast aren't going to see it, but head over to our channel after and check out the video. You'll see it. He's physically
Hey, it'll
behind-
make them go over there and check it out.
Exactly right. Yes, you can come see all of us in real time. Cool. All right, go ahead, Paul.
I'll let Nick answer first.
So I am wilderness survival. I've gone through wilderness survival training in the past. Also, the Boy Scouts of America. I'm an Eagle Scout, and also my CERT team. We do a lot of training, but I'm also went through medical training with my scuba diving stuff. So I've got many different realms of medical training in that aspect.
Well, I'm going to commend you. I'm glad to hear you're an Eagle Scout because I am an Eagle Scout myself. So I totally celebrate with you. And we don't have an official handshake as an Eagle Scout. Sorry, so there's nothing that we can, do like the military does. But
Well,
yeah,
now you guys can both have a flying eagle with a ham radio in his claws. As your ham radio Eagle Scouts. There you go.
I was gonna say, is that another symbol though the government owns and it's some conspiracy?
Yeah,
thing?
Probably.
So
It's probably some first responder thing.
yeah.
So for myself, I grew up being the medical person in my family. So I've done first solo wilderness survival medical training on my own. I've gone through medical training through school, my high school, and Vogue school. I've gone through CERT and gotten trained through that. I've gone through my dive shop to get certified through that.
Well, sure. And in
and
addition
I
to
just keep
medical
up with it.
skills,
And
being able to
I
stay
just
calm
know
and
from
clear-headed
videos
and
I've
make rational
watched,
decisions
things I've practiced,
that's something that you have to
and
learn how to do
having many
before you're
different
in that
techniques
situation.
that I use
All right. So
um,
my second
in
question
ways of
was,
learning
after all of
that
this,
I can
right?
be in almost any
There's
situation
got to
really,
be lessons learned
and figure a way
and
to get
advice
the person
that
out
you would
safely.
offer to anybody
That
that
being
that
including
loves the
myself,
outdoors like we
primarily.
all do, right? And what takeaways did you have from this that you could then want to pass that on to someone else? That's a good one. That's a good one.
Oh yeah.
I got my ham license.
Smart.
Shortly after.
So this summer I was actually working an event up in Maine called the Great Maine Getaway. It's for the MS Society, and I was chatting with some people there, avid hikers up in the King of Angus.
Oh wow.
And he says, "Yeah, I got this. I got a GRMRS radio, and I use it to talk to my wife." And I'm like, "Yeah, how well does that work?" And she goes, "Oh, it works a little bit, and as long as I'm on high ground and stuff." And I was like,
They get about half a mile to a mile out of it.
Not a whole lot.
"Yeah."
5
So I
blocks.
was like, you should probably look into getting a ham license. I said, because especially around the King of Angus, there's like 6 repeaters right there. You have Mount Craigmore, you have Mount Washington, and a couple other repeaters. And so for me, there's kind of three things I got out of the experience. The first thing is you can always learn how to drive better in the snow.
Yes.
And
We're New Englanders. That's never
Proper
gonna-
tires.
yeah, so
That's true.
I had the tires that came from the dealership on the car, and I mean, it would have been better if I had snow tires, but I think even with studded snow tires, I probably would have had the same situation.
I would have gotten out.
The second thing is, and we did this actually, the place that we stay, because we stay there all the time, the owner knows us well. So before we leave, we always tell her, hey, today we're going on these trails. You know, this is when we expect it. If you don't hear from us, like if we're leaving, and we'll say, hey, we'll call you when we get into Errol. If you don't hear from us by this time, you know, make sure you follow up. And if you can't get a hold of us, you know generally where we are. So that's a big thing. But the biggest thing for me is, keep a base station in my car.
Yeah.
and now I keep a G90 in the car too.
Okay.
Whenever I go off roading, so I got an HF with an end-fed half wave.
Okay.
So I that definitely having more reliable communications was the biggest takeaway for me. I feel like we were well prepared otherwise. So that's really what I kind of took away from it.
Tent with a wood stove would have been nice.
Yeah, but that's not practical if you're staying in a cabin.
I was going to say,
Right.
Sure it is.
It's your takeaway, Ben. Come on. You're the one.
My takeaway of the whole event, yes, we were prepared for that situation. In my eyes, we had our recovery gear, we had blankets, we had way of means of shelter, food. Both of us, we were armed at that moment in time. We had our survival skills that we've learned in the past and throughout life. Shout out to the TV show, iconically, Survivor Man.
Consult you. Okay. Cool.
Shout out to them. I grew up watching that and practicing skills from that show. And from that show, I've learned how to start fire, that 3-shot signal, through Hunter Safety Course. I've learned multiple very good things from that. But my biggest thing would be always have multiple ways of communication.
10+1. Right.
Like Nick said, we tried our phones. We tried our spot. We tried other means. We finally had to resort to ham. We've
The way
gone
it
off
always
roading.
is, right?
Exactly. We have gone off roading up in that area, and we were out on the trail so long we had to use our extra fuel tanks to restock the truck. And we hadn't gotten in like we had told our place we were staying at the time we would be. So when we got back, we immediately went into her office and let her know, because we were going in an area we hadn't really explored yet, and the roads weren't in the best of conditions. They hadn't gotten out to fixing some of them yet either. And it's always good to let somebody know where you're going, have multiple communications, have a bait. I'm not saying go out and buy like a survival kit or something like that, but have in your car a couple days worth of food, water, and some way to stay warm and stuff like that. I
Or
mean,
make
during
a
the winter
line
myself, I have in the truck, I put a small case in there of food, water, ways to stay warm, and everything. And it's New England.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be driving down the highway 1 minute and it's sunny. Next thing you know, because you didn't pay attention to the weather, man, you're in a blizzard.
Yep.
So, I mean, just look at last year up in northern New York. They had 5 or 6 foot of snow in a couple hours.
Yeah, that was crazy.
There were people stranded in their cars.
One of the things, just having this conversation that I was thinking about is 2 things. One, I never knew why people would buy a repeater book, because I'm like, why would you do it? You just go online and do it. But then I'm thinking, you guys, if you hadn't, just say you just had your HT, but you didn't really put in the repeaters, right? You wouldn't know what the tones were, what repeaters were out there. So that would be something that now I'm like, oh, that repeater, physical book, you could look it up. And then the other thing that people who are listening probably should think of is to know how to manual program your radio.
Yep.
Instead of, okay, because it's very easy to go in a computer and put it in there. But if you're out, you just got an accident and you have an HT and you're trying to find, oh, I brought my repeater book and this is the frequency I think I need, but I don't know how to get it in there.
The thing I've listened to and I've heard from many YouTubers that do ham and other ham operators is at HRO they sell water resistant books for different radios.
Yep.
They have like an FTM 500 one, which iconically I have a new base station in the truck, which is an FTM 500.
Nice rig.
It is. I love it compared to my old TYT 9800 quad band.
Which is not a bad starter. I mean, it's 500 definitely, just get a lot of comfort to there.
My 500 is my happy new one that I love very, very much. Thank you, Nick. But just having one of those books on how to program your radio without a laptop in the field is useful. Having a repeater book is useful. Knowing what times maybe people are usually on that specific repeater is also another thing to maybe know. Because having those three things together, you can now program your radio as you need or see fit. You have a repeater book that gives you the frequencies and tones of repeaters maybe in that area. And on top of that, if you're in a lull time where maybe no one's on, just wait a few minutes to a time where maybe people are on. I'm not saying wait 5 hours trying to listen to that repeater and pray without throwing your call sign out or a mayday out for somebody to chime on. No. Because there could be somebody that's already on and listening that you didn't hear put their call sign out.
Right.
So just throwing a call sign, which I do all the time on the Terry repeater, and I'll admit it, someone's gonna hear you. And if they don't, do it every 10 minutes. At some point, somebody will hear you and will reach out. And if you do like in an emergency, you say your emergency signs and give your proper things that you're supposed to. And somebody will reach out and see and make sure you're okay.
Ben,
and that's what I got out of it.
That kind of makes some sense too. Like I was before I was a ham, I was like I didn't know, when I was a kid, I didn't know what ham radio was. I just knew that people talked on the radio and I'd get it on a scanner. And I think there's a lot of people, especially I think in New Hampshire in general, there's a lot of people that will listen and scan channels. Yep. So maybe they're not licensed or anything, but maybe if you're putting out there, hey, emergency, we had a car accident, we're stuck, we have no service. If anyone's hearing this, please call 911. This is our, as you're broadcasting out there, maybe someone might hear that. And then they could, follow the thing. Maybe you don't make the exact connection, but someone might be listening because anyone can listen to any frequency, right? You just can't broadcast on it. So that was another thing that just when you were saying that kind of came into my mind, like that might be a good idea too. Because I know that we do a daily net, and there's a lot of people that listen that never check into the net, but we know that there's a ton of people who listen to it. They just don't participate in it. So
they're always listening.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think
I don't know who, I don't know if up there the rangers and stuff monitor the repeaters or whatever. I mean, I have no idea. They probably
there used to be a gentleman up there. He sadly a few years ago passed away.
So,
and he had
one of the things that I'm taking from this,
house,
and I'm a military veteran. I was Marines and Army Guard
outside covering radios he never used anymore.
Oh, no thanks is needed. I loved it. I loved every aspect of it. I got a lot of fantastic training.
Entire house,
and everything, land nav and medical and so on.
He had everything.
You guys were so lucky that he
had every antenna you could ever want,
prepared.
And then some.
You're also practiced, right? And so anybody that is familiar with any type of survival situation or an emergency like that happens in the wild, if you're not
Thank you for your
practiced,
service.
then all of the knowledge that you've got goes out the window. And so it is so important that we get this out there to everybody watching or listening, right? That you guys got very, very lucky because you were prepared in as many aspects as you could be. But if you're not practiced and you're not utilizing those skills on a regular basis, they're not going to be there when you need them.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
Definitely.
Oh, I agree with you.
The other thing too that I think saved us is, and we actually commented on our way home. Ben and I, we kept such a level head through the whole situation. We just focused on this is where we're at. This is our next step. This is our next step. This is our next step. And we didn't even think about anything beyond the situation. We just focused on what our task was, keeping a level head and getting through it. You know, because when you panic, that's when mistakes happen. Especially, I mean, everything was ice.
Yeah.
If we weren't focused on what we were doing, I could have ended up hurt. He could have ended up hurt worse. And I definitely agree. And there was one thing I wanted to touch upon, and you bring up a good point, Paul, is practice. And I think that if I wasn't volunteering with the MS Society, the Boston Marathon, all these public safety events, getting on the air, getting used to talking on the radio,
Yeah.
being comfortable and confident in what I'm doing, I feel like if I wasn't doing that, I probably wouldn't have known, you know, if I was even getting through. I mean, there are technicians that don't even know, like they key up the radio, they say their call sign, and they don't know to listen for that kerchunk on the repeater, that tail thing. You know, and I feel like, you know, I wish more people would help out with these public
Yeah, they'll
safety
just
events
grab that
because it's good
Balfang and
practice.
it'll
I
be
mean, a
good to
lot of
go.
ham radio operators, every ham radio operator has a reason to be in ham radio. But I think that at the core, a lot of ham radio operators got into ham radio just to use it. I mean, there's so many technician operators I know that they got their technician and then it sits on a shelf. They don't use it. And then they think that one day when, you know, SHTF, you know, we ended up, they're going to be able to pick it up and it's going to work.
No.
But they're not using it. They're not.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So
UV5R, I can reach California with it. No, you
yeah,
can't.
but
Barely reach your garage. Go home.
but what I'd like to say is, you know, I'd really like to encourage all hams, you know, find out what your local community is doing. You know, it doesn't have to be helping out with these big, huge events, but most of these charity organizations that do the bike rides, they do the walks, they do all of that stuff, they're always looking for ham radio operators to help. And I've seen a huge decline in people wanting to help. We used to have 30 or 40 people helping out with the MS Society. Now we have 6.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, do your part. Ham radio is a great hobby. I love it. It's the best thing. Now, after this whole thing happened and I went on Chronicle, I actually got some nasty hate. I got a lot of sad hams reaching out to me.
Videos
Okay.
on YouTube. We've got
Seriously?
death letters.
Oh, yes.
The whole
Well,
9 yards.
He just said
Why?
it, Todd. He just said it. Sad hams. Any sad ham is going
Yeah.
to
Oh, yeah.
lash out from their keyboard, and
Yeah.
you know.
We had an
Sad.
Australian from Australia make a YouTube video stating they probably had a full tank in their car.
Wow.
The car was safely rigged to the other side of the road so they could stay in it. They
Jeez.
probably had some sort of food And they probably, starting the car for 15 minutes every so many hours, could have stayed in it safely for a long time. The car was unsafe to even climb in or touch.
Now, when we got a lot of this hate, it actually made me very disinterested in the hobby for a while. And I ended up
We both ended up
getting involved in some of the podcasts and listening to them, listening to the support that's out there. I did get some great letters of encouragement as well. But that video really kind of affected me. And the thing that bothered me the most is like they heard the 3-minute summary that the news put out there on New Hampshire Chronicle. You know, you guys got the whole story now. I was prepared. We had everything we needed. I'm an Eagle Scout. I've been trained. We've already gone over that.
I practice my skills every other weekend. He practices his. I mean,
Well, I can
we
tell
couldn't
you,
have been more prepared than we were.
I can tell you when that came out on Chronicle, or when it was going to come out, my mother called me because I was of New Hampshire. You got to check this out. They're going to talk about ham radio. She like watches Chronicle, I think, all the time. I was like, all right, I'll check it out. But what's funny is when I knew you guys were coming on the podcast, guys at work, they know I do ham radio, and you get the typical jokes and stuff, and whatever. But then when they see me doing it, they're all interested. When I bring out my iPad and I'm on the flex and I'm all of a sudden talking to Italy, they're like, "Whoa!" But you would be surprised how many people you think watch Chronicle. Like, I don't know, maybe a lot, maybe not, but three-quarters of the people in my office watched Chronicle and watched your thing, and they remembered it. They're like, I remember that one. Yeah, those guys that got rescued and they used the ham radio. Like, I remember that.
Yep.
So it was positive, at least in an office that has nothing to do with ham radio. And I thought when I watched it that it was really interesting. Like, I thought it was the coolest thing ever that you guys actually used the hobby in a real life situation that got you the help you needed. And I think anyone that gives you hate on that is just, maybe they need to go see a psychiatrist or something.
So after the video came out, we had our town party day. I can't remember what it is. Celebrating the town's birthday.
Like a view party, yeah.
Old
home day. Thank you. And I mean, it was like 4 or 5 months later, and we're having old home day, and there were people that we've never met, don't know their names, don't even know them. We're coming up going, aren't you guys on New Hampshire Chronicle with the ham radio thingy that saved your life or something like that? And we're like, yes, we used ham radio to get us out of the woods. And they're like, where do I go to learn ham radio?
Yep. Good.
And I mean, we had a 10-year-old. We had kids from the Boy Scouts wondering how to do it. And we had some older gentlemen that had retired asking where to go to learn the hobby, because otherwise they're sat at home watching TV or sleeping.
Sure.
And they want to learn something so they can get out, air quotes on that,
let me
and meet new people.
Let me, I guess first, I just kind of want to apologize, obviously for all those sad keyboard warriors that just basically decided to like rip your apart. Because sadly, the internet, as we all know, can, give credit to people that have absolutely no place. Yeah. The hobby, nevertheless, having a voice to, basically criticize something that they've never been involved in. But what I want to shed some light, as Todd did already on a positive note, is that when the New Hampshire Chronicle thing came out, we as a club were starting to kind of get into some of the schools to be able to talk to them. So we went to like a trade show for the school at the high school, and we had that video on, and I didn't know we were bringing it, and they had that just on replay over and over again. We came by and we're like, I saw that video, and like Todd was saying, I saw that video. That was just so amazing. I'm like, those guys are like, do you know those guys? And I'm like, no, we don't know them personally, but that we know they're in the area, and they came out safe, and a lot of great positive stuff came out of there. Like, well then, how do you do this ham radio? And like Todd said, it's like they just kind of like all these young kids are just like, what's this mode? Like, I mean, we don't understand, like we're used to cell phones, we're used to like instant communications, but I can talk and use this in a way for both my safety and, for a fun and hobby. And it just kind of opened the door for, more conversation for a lot of like again, and we have a lot of older people in our club that they're not always we'll say extroverts and going out and having those conversations and asking those people, but it allowed them to be able to go, oh yeah, this is how I experience ham radio, and this is what I do in the hobby and what I love, and hey, this is Morse code over here. And so it was like a total igniter. And so I thank you guys for stepping out and doing all that, because it's awesome to see ham radio in the limelight. And I say, excuse the F word, but F those haters, because they're just sad hams and they don't really care. But we're all about it. And as we've said in this in our podcast over and over again, we're all about promoting the amateur radio hobby, and we want specifically to promote it in New Hampshire as much as we can, or even in New England and beyond. But that is just one thing, because we all got into it for different reasons, like you said, Nick, and all of those could be for whatever it is, but all of us come together because we all like to communicate, and we all like to play in this space. And whether it's VHF, UHF, or HF, or CW, or whatever, everyone's welcome, and everyone's got their own little place that they can play in, and we can all be happily coexisting in those spots. So my heart goes out to you when those crack emails came across, but at the same time, I'm glad there's some good stuff out of it, and I'm glad we're able to help kind of tell your story again, which is awesome.
Put it on the record straight, right? Like, Chronicle wasn't, I did 40 minutes of interview. They put me on for 3 minutes, which is never, I'm sure they didn't get everything you wanted to get on there. But I do think that your hardship, this experience, positive, negative, I think it did help improve. It helped bring awareness to the hobby, that it's not just some old man's thing that is dying. Because what I tell people is, I said, listen, ham radio is the backup communication for everything, the space, airplanes, everything. If all shit breaks loose, you go right to the ham radio, right? And it always works, right? I think I have a shirt that says that, like, when all else fails, ham radio works, or something like that.
But just a technician license, you can talk to the International Space Station.
Yep.
Totally.
I mean, they ain't gonna talk back for long. They'll give you your line there, call sign, and that's it. But it's still cool enough to just say hi.
Totally.
Well, I think it's I think your story is pretty amazing. It's kind of like, it's a story that can be passed on and say, listen, now I can say, actually, hey, I know 2 guys that use ham radio to save their lives. Like, so I don't want to hear it that it's a stupid hobby, or why do you do it?
And that's exactly why we did the interview. I didn't do it for publicity. I'm pretty much an introvert. I don't like to be the face of anything, but
pretty much because an introvert. You don't like going out unless I drag you half the time, and I don't want to go half that time.
So, it's one of those things where I made the decision that I was going to reach out to them, because I wanted people to realize that this is still alive and well. I mean, you mentioned cell phones, and the thing about ham radio is it's actually faster to get somebody on ham radio than it is to talk on a cell phone. It's almost instant communication, especially on HF. I mean, you can literally have a conversation around the world, and they're hearing you live. There's no delay. Well, sometimes there's a delay, but it's moving the speed of light. You're not relying on the internet. You're not relying on anything. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that Mount Washington, since this, put up an APRS beacon. So now if this happens again, I can use my FTM 400, which is now in the car all the time.
Oh, thank God, 400 and not the 300, because the 300s, don't get me on the APRS bandwagon here. I'll cite that one.
Anyway, I can now I can have people monitor APRS.fi or whatever, and I can put messages out there.
Well, and you're tracking real time too. So in essence, people can monitor your progress and know that, hey, you did get hung up and you haven't been where you said you were going to be, and so forth. So it's an added level of, security and communication. So it's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I really appreciate being able to tell a little more of the story, and I appreciate your positive feedback on it. And like I said, I let it get to me for a little while, but I moved past it because I saw the positive light in the whole thing. And actually, I'm going to be teaching a technician class for my Masonic group. In the Freemasons.
Nice.
So I'm gonna be hoping to get a couple more people to help, because I'm still pretty new, but we're hoping to get a bunch of guys in and get that and actually maybe start up a Masonic net for New England.
Oh, awesome.
Cool.
The bigger reason, and I think Nick will agree with me on this, is yes, we weren't going in for publicity with New Hampshire Chronicle, but coming out of the whole thing, it going on TV and being seen, if we could get, I don't care if it was just one new ham out of it that joined the hobby because they went, oh, I go into an area where there's typically not cell phone service. There's no GPS. There's nothing. I cannot rely on anything. That could now have a ham radio, have a call sign, even as a technician, and be able to go off-roading, hunting, motorcycling, hiking, however they want to do it, trail riding and whatnot, and know in their head that as long as they can hit a repeater, they can most likely, I'm not saying every single time, just most likely they can get help without having to call anybody and get somebody to their location. That was the biggest goal of it all.
You know,
exactly.
you're getting more. You're starting to see ham radio guys, like truckers. You know, they do CB, right? But there's a lot of truckers, and I've noticed this because I saw something that was saying truckers are using ham radio as much or even more than CB. And I started to look, like when I'm on the highway and I see the
The
2
gate
meter
test.
antennas. I'm like, oh, that guy's on the radio. But then the other kind of hobby or activity is like out west. I guess like there's a lot of off-roading.
Yep.
And they were using the GMRS stuff. Now a lot of them are moving to ham radio because of the distance and the more you have. Yeah. So I think ham radio is not, if anyone says ham radio is dead, I don't buy it. POTA is taken off.
Not at all.
And you hear more and more stories and more people. And then, Eric and I were just doing the activation on New Year's, and the guy he sees what he's doing, and he goes, what did he say? Like CQ or something when he walked by, and he goes, I was a ham 20 years ago. I haven't touched it since, but I can't tell you how many people have come up to me when I've been activating parks that come and say that. And then I show them what POTA is. I said, check out this gear. Now, 20 years ago, I said, I got my whole thing in this backpack. They're like, what?
Yep.
I'm like, oh, yeah, you got to check out the new stuff.
Todd, speaking of backpacks, I am actually currently in the process of building a ham radio backpack.
Okay.
For when we do CERT activations, we do the MS events, stuff like that. Nick can probably just drop me off with my ham radio backpack. I throw up the mast or whatever I need, and I can sit there with my radio and play.
Yep.
Right.
A lot of people think when you're at like events helping out, like I'm going to use the Boston Marathon for an example here. They think a lot of the time, a lot of hams go and it's work. Yes, that's involved, but most likely, yeah, then you're just going to chat with somebody and explain to them why you're there. You're more like, that's how a lot of people that I know that have gotten into ham. I'm going to use KC1 KC1. I can't remember his call sign now.
It's okay.
Jared. He's out of Epping. He's another ham. I chat with him every morning on my way to work, and I chat with him in the afternoon on my way home. I talked to another guy, Dan. His call sign is AK1X. And we'll be chatting all the time. And they got into it because they met guys doing POTAs and sodas and at events helping out and stuff like that. All it takes is somebody literally looking at you going, why do you have that radio? And why are you saying like 2 letters a number and then 3 more letters? What's going on? Why are you doing that? And that's how people find out about ham and get into the hobby then at that point. It's as simple as that. All it takes is that one question of curiosity, and we get another ham. It's as simple as that.
I think you definitely crossed your goal off there, Ben, for the first time of getting one ham after the New Hampshire Chronicle. It obviously was you, but you know, I love the fact that you guys are just like pressing in so hard to be able to just like say, yeah, you kind of subscribe to the same stuff that a lot of us do on the podcast here. Is that, you know, we're passionate about ham radio, and we know the value of it, and we know what it can, you know, provide for benefits. But at the same time, we're just super, you know, excited about like wanting to share that stuff. So like Todd shared with being able to, you know, go through the process of, you know, just sharing what a POTA activation is, or talking to people that might not know about ham radio or whatever. And you know, it's just it's what's the word that I'm thinking of? It's very I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of. You're just super overexcited about the process, and so you know, I love the fact that you guys are just starting technician classes in your local area, and just, you know, drawing people from your, you know, your churches and your places of worship and all of the other places, just to bring them in and just, you know, give them the experience, you know, and you know, hopefully, you know, if there's other stuff that, you know, we can help out as a, you know, community and you know, get you know, you guys, whatever you might need to be able to keep those people going, because I think that's the biggest thing is like once you get into ham radio, you get your ticket, the biggest thing always happens like, well, what do I do now? But you just sit there and go, you know, okay, I could get a radio, or what radio do I get? And so, you know, having those opportunities and, you know, being able to just plug people in is definitely what keeps this hobby going, and, you know, gets people interested and allows them to explore, you know, exactly all the stuff you kind of talked about. We just sidebar, we had Tim KC1QDK on a long time ago, and I think it was like episode 3 it was, and he talked about his technician you know, kind of process of how he started. And he's, you know, funny because he literally did everything he possibly could to do as a technician. Like, I mean, down to like, I'm going to try CW, I'm going to try FT8, I'm going to try everything that he had privileges for. He did it before he decided to say, okay, I'm going to just leap to general. And that's, you know, kind of what we all do, is that, you know, when we realize that, you know, technician's limited to somewhat, it's the entry point, and then we're like, oh, just go get your general, and everyone's like, oh, go get your general. And it's like, you don't really have to, because there's places out there, you just have to seek them a little harder. And, you know, so if we can open that up in New England more, I'm all game for it, and we'll help out.
Yeah.
Someone wants me to get my general, and I'm struggling to do it. Struggling. I don't have much want for it, but at the same point in time, I'm tempted at some point along the long road to maybe get it.
Once you get it, you'll be glad you got it. Because I was like, I was never going to get it, and then it was the best thing that anyone could have done for me. Even though I give Eric a lot of crap about it, I am glad he pushed me to get it, because I'm very happy I got it. On two things, Jared, he was my first contact ever, so I've talked to him, you know, a bunch of times. I gotta pull up his call sign so I can remember it. Yeah, he was my first contact, and you know, when you do that backpack and you get that thing all finished out, you know, you should come back on the podcast, and we can do even a short one and just kind of show it. I mean, who knows? By the time you get it done, we might be bigger than we are now, and you might get some, you know, you could start selling them or something.
That was actually a thought we had. Depending how this one comes out, I'm planning on possibly building a second one for Nick over here, and maybe selling them sometime in the future. But we don't plan on really putting a base station on them yet, because everybody has that go to, I want this specific base station for this specific reason for 2 meter. Like, everybody has their favorite brand, their favorite model, everything. Some people like the FTM 400, some people like the 300, some people like the 500. Somebody want a completely different brand and go on that. So we'll probably just build the base and go from there. Cool. So I'm probably going to be taking my TYT 9800 and throwing it on that, just so I can have something to bebop around with and blast the airwaves with my stupid rag chewing that I never seem to stop doing.
It's never
so
stupid.
Says somebody that is sitting in front of me.
Here's the adage that I always throw in here, and I know Paul's got a question. My adage is the reason why I'm such a nuisance and annoyance on the radio when I put my call sign out every 10 minutes is the fact that we own these frequencies. We're granted these frequencies. If we don't use them, guess what? We lose them. So get out there, start using those repeaters, start conversing. Eventually, you'll have someone come back and want to long-term rag chew with you. So don't give up, keep going. But anyway, Paul, you had a couple questions. Go ahead.
So I just had a comment. I apologize that I disappeared there for a second. My browser crashed on me. But yeah, I just wanted to point out, right, for Ben and anyone else that is hesitant on upgrading from technician to general, spend some time on HF. Right, like go to a local club's field day, or find a somebody that
I have somebody
that has the ability to play on HF, right? And you will.
His call sign is very, very different from mine.
Well, you don't even need to be forced. If you play around on HF, you will catch the bug. And, I was very happy being a general. But then I started seeing these DX stations that were just outside of where I could get them. And, I said, well, in addition to the extra band privileges, one of the first things I did as a general was I signed up to be a VE. And being a VE as an extra, you get to do it all. Right. So, find what interests you, find what makes you happy, but just experiment and try it, because you never know what you're going to like.
Quotas and stuff. Because, you can't really get far, air quotes on that, but it's still fun to activate.
Yeah.
I mean, I plan on learning CW at some point in the hopeful near future so that I can get 100%. On some of those general waves. Hint, hint, and maybe be doing some CW for making some contacts.
Very cool. Yep.
Yeah. Also, back to Todd. Jared's call sign.
You can do CW as a technician.
KC1 LTR.
LTR.
KB1 LTR.
Yeah. Sorry. He runs a net, the saddleback repeater. I don't know if you guys could probably reach that in where you're at. So he does a net on, I think is it Sundays? And I used to get on that a lot, but I run our net typically on Sundays, and then we also record our podcast on Sundays. So I haven't really been on there. I used to go on it all the time, but yeah, he's on there a lot. He runs it, I'd say 50% of the
time. So I wanted to mention, actually, so I got my general in August of that year, as we mentioned earlier, but I actually didn't key up HF radio for a long time. I had a huge mic shy. I was net control operator, all that stuff on VHF, UHF. Get me in front of an HF rig, and I was so out of my element.
Mm-hmm.
How do we fix that?
Actually, so I ended up down, I was working an event the same day as field day down in for the MS Society. Well, the event got rained out because if you remember, it was rainy this field day.
Oh, yeah.
Just for reference, the event was on the Cape.
Yes. Okay. So we were all the way down at the Cape, and I ended up driving all the way back to Port City, which we were holding it in Stratham, at Stratham Hill. And I ended up getting there and chatting with W1 ENR, and he ended up getting me on the what is it called? There's a GOTA station, right? Get on the air.
Okay.
Yeah, he got me on the GOTA station, and I made my first 2 contacts, and both of them were DX contacts.
Wow, awesome.
And a nice hex beam. I'm on the wait list for one of those. I don't know if you guys are, but
nice. Todd has an experience of blowing his finals and still using that hex beam to be able to make contacts overseas. 4 of them before he realized.
I made 4 contacts before we realized. I'm like, how come these guys aren't calling me back? I blew my finals on my radio and made 4 contacts.
Not because of the
We
antenna.
were actually up in Pittsburgh at Lake Francis activating the Lake Francis State Park. Well, Nick was, and we made a contact. The gentleman was in Italy
Love Lake Francis.
at a park in Italy. So we were doing a park to park, and that was a contact we made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've gotten into POTA. I mean, I'm definitely not into it like you guys are. I mean, I'm not going for a kilo anytime soon. I get my 10 contacts and I pack up. But you mentioned Bear Brook State Park, and that's one of the places I go all the time. So
Love that
So-
park.
we might run into each other there.
So Nick, we're gonna be doing a 24-hour activation at Greenfield
Yeah,
Greenfield State Park. We're gonna set up. We're gonna use our club call sign. We're gonna set up camp, get a couple campers or whatever, and we're gonna try to run a 24-hour activation, kind of like a field day, but park.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have different people. Like, anyone wants to
Yeah.
come can get on there, and Ben, if you're still a technician, you'll have. It's our call sign, so as long as one of us is sitting near you, you're good to go, right? But it's
I've
it's
got
something
another call sign too.
yeah. Well, I don't think it's ever been done like done like a
That'll be-
field day. So we'll see how it goes. But you guys are more than welcome to come. It's not too far from where you're at, and
Well, add me to the email list for sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
we will
definitely
definitely do
will
that.
do.
Add him. He'll just tell me about it.
He'll
and
tell you where you need
end
to
up
go.
there at some point.
Yeah, and I'm
That's
going.
how a
I'm
lot of these events work. He typically gets all the emails, and then magically I'm signed up for stuff.
I'm actually working on my extra too, so I'm
awesome.
gonna get that done.
Well, so
See, now I gotta see. Well, maybe we should hook
Yeah.
up and we could tell me how
I
you're doing.
I highly recommend New England SciTech.
Okay. What's that?
Yeah, it's actually a school, and they teach ham radio. That's how I got my general.
Okay.
And that's how I'm getting my extra. And Bob runs it. I forget his call sign. And
I think it's literally KC1 BOB.
no,
No?
no, it's K5 TEC, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, he it's down in Massachusetts, but they do it on Zoom, and he just goes through and he actually explains this stuff to you, so you actually understand a little bit of what the question's asking before you go in. So I highly recommend them if you're struggling. I mean, I'm a hamstudy.org kind of guy,
Yeah,
but
that's
I needed for the tech, I needed a little more of an explanation because it's a little bit out there, especially the theories on the antennas and stuff. So
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
so- Go ahead, Paul. Todd.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, definitely. I want to, if you don't mind, sending me an email or something with the info on that, because I'd probably look into that. And I use that ham app, that hamstudy.org. And what I liked about that is that it'll tell you in that little icon what it's all about. I'm also got one of the how to get your extra, but it's like a audio book. So
Yeah.
I know it's kind of
Fast
crazy,
Track.
like. Yeah, Fast Track, right. So I listen to
use that
that,
too.
right? I listen to that all the time in the car. I'm driving, and my kid's like, "Can we listen to something else?"
Oh,
that's him.
I'm not the popular
That's
dad when
me.
I'm not when I'm cranking that. But
Not-
it's like
technician.
I just need to have stuff like I'm a hands-on learner, so like I always suck at tests. But if I hear it over and over again and I see it, I'll remember it. So I haven't really dived into it. Like Eric gave me like literally like 3 weeks, and he goes, "You're getting your general. We're going down to Marlboro."
You were studying a month and a half before that, so don't like
Yeah,
make
but
you
I wasn't really studying. I just said I was like looking at it.
Ham Expo. You have to get it then.
Yeah, and then
How I got my technician was I used hamstudy.org,
Yep.
and I used the practice version. I didn't use the test section. So it only populated one question at a time. And if I did it any other way, I couldn't get it. So I literally sat for, what was it, 2 weeks, Nick, at home after work, and I crunched through it, and I passed with 26 out of the 30, whatever, I can't remember,
You passed.
questions
That's all.
I needed.
With one question.
I got it by one question.
I'm sure that's how I got my extra.
Shout out to the HRCC. What's it called?
The
VEs.
HRCC podcast VEs who jumped on and did my test. They didn't even know if I had passed yet, and I was sat there, and they're like, "So, how do you think you did?" And I'm like, "I feel like I failed." And they're like, "Well, we don't know yet, so we're gonna find out together."
Oh boy.
And I'm like waiting for that green, that red, just to appear on the screen of failure, and I'm looking at the screen, still looking at the screen. Now it's populated to green to pass, and I'm like, still waiting for the red, like it's a joke. And they're like, "You passed," and I'm just like, "I passed? I swear I didn't pass."
Well,
And
now
Nick's
you
in the other room because I told him to get out. And he hears, "You passed?" And he goes, "Ben, did you pass?" And I went, "I think so." And everybody on there's like, "Congratulations!" It's not clicking yet. And he comes out and goes, "Oh my God, you passed!" And I go, "I passed!"
Very cool.
Literally like 3 weeks later, we had a MS event, and on the way down, I'm on the repeaters, rag chewing, and show up to the event, and I'm not even there 2 minutes, haven't even checked in yet, and they throw me in a vehicle and say, "You're sagging for all these riders. Good luck. Bye."
And then they threw me into net control.
Threw him in net control, and we're all running around like crazy men trying to sag all these riders, and we just had a blast.
Awesome.
And I hadn't even been a technician for 3 weeks.
That's awesome.
And
That's a lot of our stories. I mean, I think we're all kind of all in that same boat. It's cool.
I passed my test on July 13th. I got my call sign that Thursday. So Tuesday I passed. Thursday I got my call sign. Iconically, we were going up to an event, and we got to the event, which was the New England Forest Rally. I believe they're doing it this year. Nick, go ahead and correct me on that.
We don't know yet.
Okay. And so we're up there and we're just having a fun time. Iconically, another ham had just gotten their extra. I am KC1 TFB.
Technician.
Technician, I apologize. I am KC1 TFB. Their call sign, KC1 TFG.
Mm-hmm.
And we were on the same team.
And we're on the
So
same
imagine
team.
how confusing that got.
Oh yeah, I
That
believe
got
it.
confusing. We then went to another event up in Maine, which was the Great Maine Getaway for the MS event. And we had another person up there that was KC1 TFD.
Yeah, that's
Delta.
crazy. Totally crazy.
Yeah.
And we'd all passed within an hour of each other.
Wow.
So it was just funny because it just worked out. Like I always wondered how they decide on the call signs. It's just in alphabetical order, it turns out.
Yeah, they just kind of roll to the next one that's in line. Yep.
Yeah, and our lovely leader for our team came up with some very interesting nicknames for everybody's call signs. I'm not going to get into that, but it was.
Let's just say it was
pretty
Buddha.
good.
For me. Thank Buddha. I'm not getting into the middle letter.
Yeah. Anyway, it was pretty funny.
Funny. It was
But yeah.
hilarious when he tried doing it over the air.
Oh, I can imagine.
Everybody yelled at him.
So let's kind of circle. Because obviously we could go too crazy. We aren't the ham radio workbench podcast where we go 4 hours long. So this is definitely us, but the conversation. So Nick, you got a couple of things you've been kind of working on. Obviously, you got into cert and doing a lot of that more kind of from this whole story and whatnot. So kind of what's going on with that, and you share a little bit about that. I mean, it sounds like some interesting stuff that kind of led you down that road.
Yeah. So I've always been big in community involvement. My father is a firefighter. My grandfather's a firefighter. My brother's a firefighter. So I've always been surrounded by first responders. And I wanted to be a police officer, just and never worked out. So when I heard about the CERT team, I figured it was right up my alley. And so we joined it, and it took a little while to get things through. Then when I got my ham radio license, I jumped in head first, like I do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up becoming the appointed communications director for our team.
Because he jumps in head first into everything.
And so I proceeded to redevelop our whole thing. We're set up with FL Digi now. We're set up with APRS.
Wow.
We're really kind of full force into it. I'm utilizing a lot of tools that I'm learning through Aries. And one of the big things is that where we are, we have a lot of 2-meter repeaters, but the coverage is really big. I mean, the K1CA repeater covers just a huge area. And so if there was an actual emergency that we had to activate statewide, the amount of people that are going to try to be on that repeater, it's going to be just clogged up. So I decided on my own accord to set up an antenna up on my chimney with some half-inch hardline coax down to a little mobile duplexer, hoping to upgrade the duplexer eventually so I can give a little more power. But with the Yaesu repeater, I run it on, it runs mostly FM, but it's able to run Fusion if needed.
Nice.
So I really got that going. The other thing is that I'm actually helping out the CERT at a state level now. So there's going to be an exercise. I can't get into it a whole lot, but I'm going to be helping out with the communications aspect of that exercise.
Oh, very cool.
So it's a really big thing for me. I've enjoyed it, and that's 13.
No. Yeah, Todd can contest that. We are always kind of looking for the same thing within our local clubs to kind of expand and start building repeaters, and that is an animal that we have not all kind of fully delved into yet, and I'm sure you're probably learning a lot very fast. And as I hear from our trustee that currently manages our repeater, that tuning cans and that whole ordeal is a creative art and skill that you have to have, and the right equipment. So I guarantee that whatever bench you have now, just add an extra 10 more feet, because you're going to need a lot more equipment down the road to get where you want to be.
Have that space.
Well, yeah.
Nor will he ever have that space.
Well, you never say never.
Wallet, and I will put it in a very low, short area because he's tall.
But one thing I'll say is that a member of my club, he's very well known. He is a tower climber.
Oh, that's K.
Chris.
Yeah, Chris. Okay, yeah, big.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually put Ryan's towers up so Ryan could share stories with you.
He's actually helping me with the tuning and.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, he's a great guy. From what I understand, his knowledge is huge. He's a good contester too. So
huge asset to our ham radio community in New Hampshire and Maine. He's helping rebuild a repeater network up in Maine that the ham radio who ran it became a silent key last year.
Okay.
And they have a whole series of repeaters that are all linked up in Maine.
Really? Because I vacation up there a lot, and you'd think I would I look up the repeater directory, and I talk to more people on 5.2 in Maine than I talk to anybody on a repeater. It's kind of crazy because once you cross over that border, it's where did they all go? There's nobody. I can't hear repeaters, can't hear machines. Are they all DMR? Are they all regular straight FM repeaters, or what's the network?
I think they're all Fusion now, but they used to be FM linked.
That's probably why. Okay.
And but they it's a pretty big group. It's at least 6 repeaters that are all linked.
Wow.
The first one's in York.
Okay. Oh wow. Well, I'm not that far away.
Yeah.
From them. Okay. Cool. I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I definitely I recommend too to any hams getting out there is go to the field day. Even if you're not part of the club, find a local club holding a field day, because you'd be surprised of who is a ham. There's people that I've known for a long time that I didn't know was a ham that showed up to field day, and I was like, oh wow.
Or more so, the people you actually talk on the repeater that you never ever get to see their face, you will see them on field day.
Even if you're not a ham and you hear about a field day and you just listen to like podcasts, go out, meet the community, because who knows?
Yep.
You may just show up and chat, have a burger, and hang out, and they may throw you on the air if they allow that, and let you make a couple contacts. But at the same point in time, you may get interested and maybe try and join and be even a technician.
Yep.
And then bust your butt up to general, and then extra to be like Eric and what Nick wants to be, and always want to do more with everything and go deeper down the rabbit hole.
Well, that's why we do it, right? As Nick said, confessed, he doesn't do anything, half-heartedly. He'll just dive right in, and I'm sure all of us at some level have either dove into other people's wallets to help them spend their money. Todd. We'll see where we kind of go with that. But yeah, I second, and we probably all second, because I mean, that's kind of how we all met through our field days and just, getting together. And we love our field days in our club because we're very much use it as a way to just hang out. And Paul and I love doing it because like, we'll camp out on that Friday night when most people are like, oh, I've done setup, and they'll go home. We'll be there hanging out, and we'll just be having a couple of beers, playing with the HF radio, having steaks, just shooting the breeze, enjoying each other's company and hanging out. And that's just as important as making contacts on, HF and playing with radios and whatnot, because that just, cements, the hobby that much better, and you build some really great relationships. So, I'm all for stuff like that, and, including as many people as you can in the process. So that's very cool. Cool. All right. Well, any last kind of final things you guys want to throw in there to add? Because I think we covered definitely a lot and awesome stuff. And I'm glad we were able to get your story out there and educate more people on that and whatnot. But any last kind of things you want to throw into the ring there?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having us on. I really appreciate it. It was great to meet all of you guys virtually. Hopefully we get to meet up sometime in the local community. I appreciate everything you do for the hobby, keeping it alive, getting the word out there. It means a lot to me as a ham. You guys do a great job, and I'm really honored that you asked me to be on the show, and thank you so much. I had a lot of fun, and it was funny because we ran it like nice and long, and I wasn't expecting that, and it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed chatting with you guys.
Well, you made it easy, and I'd have to say that I don't. We could go on for several more hours for sure, no problem. And it's like we just like to have fun and hang out and talk about ham radio. So you don't feel like you beat the record, although you will be forever and encased as the first podcast for us that went over our usual hour. So you have that honor.
We apologize to all the listeners that schedule this to be an hour. And plan around that hour. Plan for this to be a little longer than that. By
folks that listen to the Ham Radio podcast, the Ham Radio Workbench podcast, they measure their podcast in a lawn mowing acreage. So, if anything, we're probably not ever touch that, but I still had fun, and I'm glad you guys definitely came on. And thank you for, reaching back out to us and sharing your story, because I learned a lot, and it filled in a lot of the blanks, and it just made it that much more reassuring that we've got some really great faces for ham radio, and that they're promoting the hobby and just making it available for everybody to get involved that wants to get involved. So with that, Todd, Paul, you want to throw anything in the ring?
Yeah, you guys, just thanks for coming out and doing this with us. It's great. In the future, if you get something else that you want to talk to, reach out to us. We'd be glad to have you back. It's been a lot of fun, and I really got a better perspective from the Chronicle to talking with you guys tonight on what really happened and some of the ins and outs that you didn't get really in Chronicles. So this was good for me. I actually like it. I appreciate it even more than I did when I saw it on Chronicles. So thanks for joining us tonight, and it's much appreciated.
Cool.
Yeah, it's absolutely it's been a pleasure getting to know you guys. You see a news clip and you get that quick take, but to truly understand what happened and who it was that it was happening to, and what the situation was, is truly a remarkable story. And I hope that other people that are taking some positive advice and learning how to better be prepared themselves. So absolutely. And when you guys do eventually figure out your man packs, I'm definitely interested in that. So I look forward to talking to you guys in the future.
I agree with real quick. I agree with you, Todd. You always get that like sliver of information on the news,
Right.
but in reality, we've gone 2 hours ish probably into this.
Yeah.
And
You could have had a whole month on Chronicle,
that's
right?
like 2 hours worth of information that they tried to fit into 3 minutes.
Yeah. Never good. So awesome. Cool. All right. Well, wrap things up. As always, like I said, thank you for joining for Live Free and Ham podcast. Remember, if you haven't subscribed yet, you obviously are missing out on a lot of great stuff. This is obviously a perfect example of that. So make sure you subscribe or smash that like button and subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already. And always head over to our YouTube because we always like to live stream, and we're going to start putting out a lot more content that way. So you can catch us in any method that you have or you prefer to listen to. And as always, you can connect with us and the whole show by obviously reviewing us, and that's one way we know that you guys are listening and that you're enjoying the stuff and the content we're putting out. And you can always reach out to us on our social medias for any of the latest information, shows, content. And lastly, as with every show, we always like to support. We're always looking for support, and your feedback and your likes are always helpful. But if you want to help contribute and continue to move our mission forward, you can always head over to our website and click those Patreon and buy us a beer links, because we always appreciate those and those that have contributed, as every bit always helps the show. And if you want to connect to any one of our hosts, you can always head over to our website at livefreeandham.com. And as always, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Nick, for coming on tonight. We appreciate you guys and loved every bit of it and soaked it all up. And as always, thanks for listening to Live Free and Ham. And from all of us, 7-3.
7-3.
Live free.
73. Live free.
That is our next stream. 7-3, guys.